brought to you by thedtproject.com. Today we're going to look at the techniques used for making your jewellery, using a piece of silver sheet and wire. The first thing we're going to look at on this design is how to make the small loop of wire which attaches to the main rod. Notice the end of the wire is flat, yet if you look carefully on this design, the end will need to be angled in order for it to match up neatly. Using some wet and dry paper, carefully run the wire at the angle you require. This may take a few minutes, but when finished, you should have something looking like this. You can bend the wire using some round nose pliers. Simply grip the wire and wrap it around the curved edge of the pliers. This may take some time to get perfect, but now is the time to get things right. As you can see, our first piece is finished, but needs to be cut to length. This part is simple. Just use some pliers with a wire cutter and snip it to the right length. Note, I am putting an angle on the wire to help save time later. Now the first piece is finished, I'm going to move on to create the larger spiral using the same technique as before. Here's one I made earlier. Look at how the angle I put on earlier will help it to line up. The flat edge also gives more surface area for when we silver solder the parts together. The leaf is going to attach onto the end, but there is not much surface area here. Using the flat area on the vise, I'm going to very gently tap the end to flatten it ready to solder. Note, I'm holding it over the edge, so only the end gets flattened. I'm going to round this off. You know what to do. Let's look at the leaf now. I'm going to use some tin snips. The problem with tin snips is even these small ones are hard to operate one-handed. Holding them in the vise allows me to use one hand. I'm also holding the silver with some pliers to make it easier to turn and cut at the same time. Let's speed things up. Perfect. I'm going to round off those edges with some wet and dry paper. If you need to do a more complex shape, use a scroll saw to carefully cut your design. You could also use needle files. In part 2, we will look at silver soldering.